I didn't believe in fate until the night a stranger's hand closed around another woman's wrist and changed everything. The gallery opening was supposed to be my escape. After 3 months of suffocating corporate meetings and my mother's relentless phone calls about my wasted potential, I'd finally taken a Saturday night for myself. The art was mediocre at best, abstract swirls that meant nothing. But the champagne was free, and the crowd was just dense enough that I could disappear into it. I stood before a canvas of violent reds and blacks, pretending to contemplate its depth. When I felt him before I saw him, the air shifted. Conversations seemed to quiet, though logically I knew they hadn't. It was just that my entire nervous system had suddenly focused on the presence that materialized beside me, tall, dark-suited, radiating the kind of authority that made people unconsciously step back. "It's angry," he said, his voice low and measured, with an edge that suggested he understood anger intimately. I glanced sideways. He was looking at the painting, not at me, which gave me a moment to study him. Sharp jawline, dark hair swept back with casual precision, eyes like smoke gray, unreadable, dangerous. He wore his expensive suit like armor, every line perfect, every detail deliberate. Or passionate, I countered, surprised by my own boldness. Now he looked at me. The weight of his gaze was physical, pinning me in place even as every instinct screamed at me to walk away. His lips curved slightly, not quite a smile, but close enough to make my pulse stutter. There's often little difference between the two. Before I could respond, a woman's voice cut through the moment like shattered glass. "Dante! There you are! I've been looking everywhere." She materialized from the crowd, sleek, beautiful, dripping with diamonds that caught the gallery lights. Her red dress was designer, her smile proprietary as she reached for his arm. But there was something brittle in her expression, something that made my stomach tighten with instinctive unease. "Vanessa." His tone went flat, empty of the warmth that had colored our brief exchange. "We need to leave. Marcus is waiting." She finally noticed me, her gaze sweeping over my simple black dress with obvious dismissal. "Who's this?" "No one," I said quickly, taking a step back. She has excellent taste in art," Dante said, his eyes still on me. "Unlike some people." Vanessa's smile sharpened into something cruel. "How sweet. Dante does love to collect strays." She turned to me fully now, her voice dropping to a stage whisper. "Fair warning, sweetheart, he gets bored easily. Ask any of his other charitable projects. Vanessa." His voice held warning now, dark and absolute. But she was already moving, closing the distance between us with predatory grace. "You should run along now. This is a private conversation." Her hand came up, fingers spread to push against my shoulder. She never made contact. Dante moved faster than should have been possible for a man his size. One moment, Vanessa's hand was reaching for me. The next, his fingers were locked around her wrist, holding her frozen in place. The gallery seemed to hold its breath. "Touch her again," he said softly, his voice carrying a promise that made ice crawl down my spine. "And you're done." The words were quiet, controlled, absolutely terrifying. Vanessa's face went white, then red. "Dante, you're hurting me." "Am I?" He didn't loosen his grip. "I thought you enjoyed games. Isn't that what you said last week? That you loved playing them? This is different." "Yes, it is." His eyes flicked to me for just a heartbeat, something unreadable passing through them, before returning to Vanessa. "Because she's different." He released her wrist. Vanessa stumbled back, cradling her arm, fury and humiliation warring in her expression. For a moment, I thought she might slap him, might scream, might do something dramatic and scene-making. Instead, she laughed a harsh, broken sound. "You'll regret this," she hissed. Then, louder, her voice carrying across the suddenly silent gallery. "You have no idea who you're playing with, sweetheart. Dante Caruso doesn't save anyone. He destroys them." She turned and walked away, her heels striking the floor like gunshots. I stood frozen, my heart hammering against my ribs. Around us, conversation slowly resumed, people pretending they hadn't witnessed whatever that was. But I could feel their eyes, their curiosity, their speculation. "I apologize." Dante's voice was different now, softer, almost gentle. "You shouldn't have been caught in that. Who are you?" The question escaped before I could stop it. Something flickered in his expression. Amusement? Regret? Someone you should stay away from. That's not an answer. It's the only one that matters. He stepped closer, and I caught the scent of expensive cologne and something darker. Underneath whiskey, maybe, or smoke. "What's your name?" I should have lied. Should have walked away. Should have listened to every screaming instinct that told me this man was danger wrapped in expensive fabric. "Elena," I whispered. "Elena." He said it like he was tasting it, memorizing it. "I'm Dante Caruso." The name meant nothing to me then. I was so stupidly, dangerously naive. "You should forget you met me tonight," he continued, his eyes searching my face like he was trying to memorize every detail. "Go back to your safe, ordinary life. Pretend this never happened." "Why?" "Because I'm not the hero in anyone's story, Elena. Especially not yours." He turned to leave, and I should have let him go. Should have counted my blessings and retreated to my safe, boring apartment with nothing more than a strange story to tell. Instead, I reached out and caught his arm. He froze, looked down at my hand on his sleeve, then back at my face. The air between us crackled with something, electric, something that made my skin feel too tight and my breath catch in my throat. What if I don't want to forget? For a long moment, he just stared at me. Then, slowly, inevitably, he smiled, a real smile this time. Beautiful and terrible and full of dark promise. "Then God help you, Elena, because I won't be able to." He pulled a card from his pocket, pressed it into my palm, and walked away. I stood there, trembling, staring down at the embossed name and number. Behind me, someone whispered, "Do you know who that was? Dante Caruso runs half this city. His family." I stopped listening, because I was staring at the card in my hand and realizing with absolute, bone-deep certainty that my safe, ordinary life had just ended. I threw the card away 3 times. The first time was in the gallery bathroom, crumpling it into the trash bin beneath the sink while my hands shook and my reflection stared back at me with wide, frightened eyes. "What are you doing, Elena? Walk away." The second time was in my apartment that night, standing over my kitchen trash can, telling myself this was insane, that men who inspired that kind of fear weren't men you called. The third time was 2 days later, after I'd fished it out twice and spent 48 hours researching Dante Caruso online. What I found made my blood run cold. The Caruso family wasn't just wealthy, they were powerful in ways that made legitimate business look like child's play. The articles were careful, legally worded, never quite saying what they implied. But the implications were clear enough. Organized crime, money laundering, connections to disappeared rivals and closed investigations. And Dante, beautiful, dangerous. Dante sat at the center of it all. I should have been terrified. I was terrified. But I also couldn't stop thinking about the way he'd looked at me. The way he'd defended me from a woman he was supposedly with. The darkness in his voice when he'd said, "Touch her again, and you're done." On Wednesday morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. My finger hovered over the decline button. Every rational thought screamed at me to let it go to voicemail, to block the number, to pretend Saturday night had been a fever dream. I answered, "Elena." Just my name, but the way he said it low, certain, like he'd known I would answer, made heat crawl up my spine. "How did you get my number? Does it matter?" A pause. "I need to see you." "I don't think that's a good idea." "Neither do I." He sounded almost amused. Yet here we are. I pressed my forehead against my kitchen window, watching rain streak down the glass. "What do you want from me?" The silence stretched so long I thought he'd hung up. Then, "I don't know yet. But I can't stop thinking about you, and that's problematic." "Problematic," I repeated. "That's one word for it." "Elena." His voice dropped, became something darker, more intense. "I'm giving you a choice. Meet me tonight. 8 o'clock. The address is on the card you keep trying to throw away." My stomach flipped. "How do you know because you're still holding it?" I looked down. The card sat on my counter, creased and worn from being crumpled and smoothed out multiple times. This is crazy. "Yes, you're dangerous. Extremely. I should say no." "You should." Another pause. "But you won't." He was right, and we both knew it. 8 o'clock, I whispered. The line went dead. The address led me to a restaurant I couldn't afford to look at, let alone eat in. The kind of place where reservations were made months in advance, and the prix-fixie menu cost more than my monthly car payment. I stood outside in the rain, suddenly acutely aware of my simple navy dress and second-hand coat, wondering what the hell I was doing here. A man in a black suit appeared beside me. "Miss Elena?" I jumped. Yes? Mr. Caruso is expecting you. Please come with me. He didn't wait for confirmation, just opened an umbrella and began walking toward a carassa, side entrance. I followed, because apparently I'd left all common sense back in my apartment. We didn't enter through the main doors. Instead, he led me through a private entrance, down a hallway lined with expensive art, to a single elevator that required a keycard to operate. Top floor, he said simply, swiping the card and stepping back. The doors closed. My reflection stared back at me, wet hair, nervous eyes, lips I couldn't stop biting. What are you doing, Elena? The elevator opened directly into a private dining room. Dante stood by the window, backlit by the city lights, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. He'd shed his jacket, rolled his sleeves to his elbows, revealing forearms that shouldn't have been as distracting as they were. A glass of whiskey sat on the table beside him. He turned when the elevator opened, and the weight of his attention hit me like a physical force. You came. You knew I would. I hoped. He moved toward me, each step deliberate. But hope and certainty are different things. Why am I here, Dante? He stopped an arm's length away, close enough that I could see the silver threading through the gray of his eyes, the tension in his jaw, the way his hands flexed like he wanted to reach for me but wouldn't let himself. Because 3 days ago, a woman I barely tolerate tried to touch you, and I nearly broke her wrist. His voice was quiet, controlled, but something violent simmered beneath. Because I've built an empire on control, on calculated decisions, and the moment I saw you, all of that became irrelevant. That's not an answer. It's the only honest one I have. He stepped closer. I should let you go. Should tell you to forget you ever met me. Should protect you from what I am. But I'm not that selfless. His hand came up, fingers brushing my cheek with devastating gentleness. And you're not running. I should have been. God, I should have been. Instead, I leaned into his touch. Tell me the truth. What Vanessa said was accurate. He didn't flinch from it. I'm not a good man, Elena. The things I've done, the world I live in, it would terrify you. Then why am I here? Because despite everything I am, everything I know I shouldn't want, I can't let you go. Before I could respond, the elevator dinged. Dante's entire demeanor changed in an instant. The softness vanished, replaced by something hard and lethal. He moved in front of me, positioning himself between me and the doors, his hand moving to his waist, where I now realized a gun rested, hidden beneath his shirt. The elevator opened. A man stepped out, older, silver-haired, wearing an expression of cold fury. Father, Dante said flatly. The man's eyes found me over Dante's shoulder, and his smile was cruel. So this is the girl who's made my son forget his place. I'd never truly understood the phrase blood running cold until that moment. Dante's father, because who else could this man be? With those same sharp features and predatory eyes, moved into the room with the confidence of someone who owned not just the space, but everyone in it. Elena, isn't it? He said my name like it was something distasteful. Marco Caruso. I apologize for the intrusion, but my son and I need to have a conversation. Elena stays. Dante's voice was ice. Marco's smile didn't reach his eyes. I wasn't aware you'd started making demands in my establishments. Your establishments? Dante's laugh was harsh. We both know how the territory actually divides, old man. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. I stood frozen, watching these two men face each other like wolves determining pack hierarchy. The resemblance was uncanny and terrifying. But where Dante's danger felt controlled, calculated, Marco's felt casual, like violence was simply another tool he used without thought. Miss Elena, Marco said, never taking his eyes off his son, has Dante told you what we are? What this family does? Father, has he explained that the blood money that paid for this restaurant, for his suits, for everything you see, comes from enterprises that would turn your stomach? Enough! Dante moved, but Marco raised a hand. I'm simply being honest. You want honesty, don't you, dear? You seem like a smart girl. Smart enough to know that men like us don't have normal relationships. We have transactions, assets, liabilities. He finally looked at me directly, and I understood why people feared this man. His eyes were empty of anything resembling warmth or humanity. Which are you, I wonder? She's leaving. Dante's hand found my arm, gentle despite the tension radiating through his body. Now. Actually, I think she should hear this. Marco pulled out a chair, sat with leisurely grace. You see, Elena, my son is currently engaged to be married. Did he mention that? The world tilted. I looked at Dante. His jaw was locked, a muscle ticking beneath the skin, but he didn't deny it. "It's a business arrangement," he said quietly. "Nothing more." "Business," Marco agreed pleasantly. "With the Salvatore family. Very important business. The kind that keeps territories peaceful, money flowing, bodies from piling up in the streets." He leaned back. "The kind that doesn't allow for distractions." "I'm not a distraction," I heard myself say. Both men looked at me, Dante with something that might have been admiration, Marco with cold amusement. "Oh, my dear, you're worse than a distraction. You're a complication." Marco stood, buttoning his jacket. "And in our world, complications get eliminated." "Are you threatening her?" Dante's voice went deadly quiet. "I'm explaining reality." Marco moved toward the elevator. "You have a choice, son. The Salvatore alliance and everything we've built. Or this girl and the war that will follow when that alliance crumbles." He pressed the elevator button, then paused. "Choose wisely, because if you don't, I'll choose for you." The elevator, doors closed on his parting words. Silence crashed over the room. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. My mind kept replaying the words. Engaged to be married, business arrangement, complications get eliminated. "Elena, you're engaged." My voice sounded distant, strange. "It's not what you think. Then what is it?" I spun to face him. "Because it sounds like I'm the other woman in some Mafia arrangement I didn't even know existed 3 days ago." Dante ran a hand through his hair, the first sign of disorder I'd seen in him. "The engagement was arranged when I was 23. Vanessa Salvatore. You met her at the gallery. Vanessa. The beautiful, cruel woman who tried to shove me. You're marrying her. I was supposed to. But the wedding keeps getting postponed. Because neither of us wants it." "Then why?" "Because that's how this world works." His voice rose, then dropped back to that dangerous quiet. "Marriages cement alliances. Prevent wars. My personal feelings are irrelevant." "And what am I?" The question came out broken. "What was Saturday night? Tonight? Some last taste of freedom before you're shackled to a woman you don't love?" "No." He crossed the distance between us in 2 strides, his hands framing my face with devastating gentleness. "You're the first real thing I've felt in 10 years. The first person who looked at me and saw something other than the Caruso name and what it could do for them. That's not fair." Tears burned my eyes. "You can't say things like that when you're promised to someone else. When your father just threatened my life. He won't touch you. I won't let him." "How?" I pushed at his chest, needing space, needing air. "How are you going to protect me from your entire world? From arranged marriages and business arrangements and—" The elevator dinged again. Dante's entire body went rigid. His hand moved to his gun, positioning himself in front of me again. And I realized with sickening clarity that this was his life. Constant vigilance, constant danger. The doors opened. A different man stepped out, younger, with Dante's dark hair but a harder edge to his features. His eyes swept the room, landed on me, and something like recognition flickered across his face. "We have a problem," he said without preamble. "The Salvatores know about her. Luca," Vanessa told her father. "About Saturday, about the wrist grab, about everything." Luca's expression was grim. "Antonio Salvatore wants a meeting, tonight, and he's making noise about broken promises and dishonor. Let him make noise. Dante." Luca's voice dropped. "He has 6 of our guys surrounded at the 4th Street warehouse. Says it's insurance. That you'll meet with him, or he starts sending them back in pieces." The color drained from Dante's face. I stepped back, the full weight of this world crashing over me. These weren't abstract threats. People were about to die. Because of me. Because of Saturday night. "I have to go." I whispered. "Elena, this is insane. All of this. Your father, your fiancé, people about to be killed. I can't." My voice broke. "I can't be part of this." I moved toward the elevator, but Dante caught my wrist. "Please," he said, and the word sounded like it cost him everything. "Don't leave. Not like this." I looked up at him, this beautiful, dangerous man, who defended me without hesitation, who spoke of control but looked at me like I was his unraveling. "I have to," I said softly, "before anyone else gets hurt." I pulled free and stepped into the elevator. The last thing I saw before the doors closed was Dante's face, devastated, furious, and utterly helpless. The elevator descended, and I finally let myself break. I made it exactly 12 hours. 12 hours of pacing my apartment, jumping at every sound, checking my phone obsessively even though I'd blocked Dante's number. 12 hours of telling myself I'd done the right thing, that walking away was the only sane option. 12 hours before the knock on my door changed everything. I checked the peephole first. I wasn't completely stupid. A woman stood in the hallway, petite, professional, holding a manila envelope. She looked like a lawyer or a businesswoman, completely non-threatening. I opened the door with the chain still attached. Yes? Elena Morrison? Her smile was pleasant, practiced. I have a delivery for you. I didn't order anything. It's from Mr. Caruso. He wanted to ensure you received this personally. She held up the envelope. Everything in me screamed to slam the door. Instead, I took the envelope through the gap, thanked her, and locked every deadbolt I owned. Inside was a single photograph and a handwritten note. The photograph made my blood freeze. It was me, leaving my apartment building yesterday morning, walking to my car, entering the coffee shop on 5th Street. Each image, time-stamped, taken from different angles, by different cameras. Someone had been following me. The note was written in sharp, elegant script. You can run from him, but you can't run from this. The Salvatores don't forget. The Salvatores don't forgive. And they already know everything about you. V. Vanessa. My hands shook so badly I dropped the photograph. This wasn't just a threat. This was proof that I was already in their crosshairs, whether I wanted to be or not. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered before I could stop myself. Did you get my gift? Vanessa's voice was sickeningly sweet. I wanted you to understand the situation clearly. What do you want? What I want is for you to disappear. But since you seem intent on playing games with my fiancé, I thought we should establish some ground rules. He's not yours. She laughed. Oh, darling. In this world, everything is about ownership, contracts, arrangements. And Dante Caruso has belonged to me since we were teenagers. Just because he's having a momentary lapse in judgment doesn't change the fundamental reality. Then why do you care if he sees me? The laughter died. Because I don't share. Because you're making him weak. Because my father is this close to starting a war that will paint this city red. And I won't let some naive little nobody ruin everything we've built. I'm not part of this. You became part of this the moment you let him touch you. Her voice went cold. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave. Tonight. The city, the state, whatever. Just go. If you don't, if you try to see him again, if you so much as answer his calls, those photographs I sent, they'll end up in my father's hands. And Antonio Salvatore doesn't deal with problems the way his daughter does. You're insane. I'm practical. You have 24 hours. The line went dead. I stood in my apartment, surrounded by surveillance photos of my own life, and realized with terrible clarity that walking away from Dante hadn't saved me. It had just left me alone and unprotected. I lasted 3 more hours before I called him. Elena. He answered before the first ring finished, his voice raw with relief and something darker. Where are you? My apartment. But Dante, we need to. Lock your door. Don't let anyone in. I'm 10 minutes away. How do you know where I live? A pause. I've known since Sunday. I needed to know you were safe. I should have been angry about the invasion of privacy, should have been horrified, but all I felt was a sick sort of gratitude. Vanessa sent me pictures. She's been having me followed. The silence on the other end was more terrifying than any threat. When Dante spoke again, his voice was completely empty of emotion, which somehow made it infinitely more dangerous. What kind of pictures? I told him about the call, the threats, the 24-hour ultimatum. She's bluffing, he said finally. Antonio wouldn't move against you without talking to me first. You sound very certain. Because I spent last night reminding him what happens when people threaten what's mine. I'm not. Yes. You are. The words were absolute. Whether you want to be or not, Elena, you're mine. And I protect what's mine. A knock on my door made me jump. That's me, Dante said. Let me in. I opened the door to find him in the hallway, phone still to his ear, looking like he'd been through hell. His shirt was untucked, his tie gone, shadows under his eyes that suggested he hadn't slept. 2 men in black suits stood behind him, hands resting casually near their waists, where I now knew guns would be holstered. He lowered his phone, eyes scanning me for injuries. Are you hurt? No, but... He stepped inside, his men taking positions in the hallway, and closed the door behind him. Then he pulled me against his chest, his arms coming around me with crushing intensity. "I'm sorry," he said into my hair. "I'm so goddamn sorry. I should have protected you better, should have anticipated this. This isn't your fault. It's entirely my fault." He pulled back, hands framing my face. "My father was right. You're a complication, a liability. Every logical bone in my body says I should let you go. Make sure you're protected from a distance, and marry Vanessa like I'm supposed to." My heart cracked. "Okay. But I can't." His thumbs brushed my cheeks. "I physically cannot make myself let you go, which means I'm going to do something incredibly stupid and dangerous, and probably catastrophic." "What?" His smile was dark, beautiful, and utterly reckless. "I'm going to break my engagement, end the Salvatore alliance, and claim you publicly as mine." "Dante, that's insane. You said it yourself, marriages prevent wars. If you break the engagement, then there will be war." He said it simply, like he was discussing the weather. "And I will win it. You can't know that. I know that I've spent 10 years building an empire through calculation and restraint. And I know that the Privasses, the moment I saw you, all of that became meaningless." His forehead rested against mine. "You're the variable I never planned for, Elena. The chaos in my perfect order. And I'm done pretending I can walk away. What if I can't do this? What if I'm not strong enough for your world? Then I'll burn it down and build you a new one." Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression went lethal. "What?" "Vanessa just posted something. On social media. About us." He showed me the screen. My stomach dropped. It was a photo from the gallery, me and Dante, close together, his hand near my face. The caption read, "When your fiancé finds new hobbies. Number Caruso family, number poor choice, number consequences. 10,000 likes already. Comments flooding in. She's making this public," I whispered. "Forcing your hand. Good." Dante pocketed his phone. "I wanted to do this properly, but if she wants to play it this way." His phone rang. He answered without looking. "What?" I watched. His face changed from anger to something cold and calculated. "When?" A pause. "I'll be there in 30 minutes. Tell them not to move until I arrive." He hung up, and when he looked at me, I saw the Mafia boss clearly for the first time. Not the man who'd defended me, or held me gently, but the predator who ruled an empire. "I have to go. Antonio Salvatore just called a sit-down. Every family. Tonight." His hands cupped my face one more time. "This ends tonight. One way or another. Dante." He kissed me. Hard, desperate, claiming. When he pulled back, his eyes burned. "Stay here. My men will guard your door. Don't leave. Don't answer calls from anyone but me. Understand?" I nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. He walked to the door, paused with his hand on the handle. "Elena? When this is over, I'm coming back for you, and I'm never letting you go again." Then he was gone, and I was left alone with 2 armed guards in my hallway and the terrifying knowledge that somewhere across the city, Dante Caruso was about to start a war. For me, the wait was torture. I paced my apartment for 3 hours, watching the clock, checking my phone, trying not to imagine all the ways this could end in violence. Dante's men stood silent vigil outside my door. I could see their shadows under the gap, hear the occasional murmur of conversation. At 11:47 p.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Elena Morrison?" A woman's voice. Professional, unfamiliar. "Who is this?" "My name is Sofia Marchetti. I'm calling because you deserve to know the truth before you make any more decisions about Dante Caruso." Every instinct screamed trap. "I don't know you." "No, but I knew your father." The world stopped. "My father died when I was 8. Car accident. That's what they told you." Her voice was gentle, pitying. "Elena, your father worked for the Caruso family. He was their accountant. And when he found evidence of something Marco Caruso wanted buried, he didn't die in an accident." "No." The word came out strangled. "You're lying. This is some kind of... Marco Caruso had your father killed. 16 years ago. Made it look like an accident because you and your mother were complications he didn't need." She paused. "I have proof. Documents your father copied before he died. I can send them to you." "Why?" My voice broke. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because Dante is about to blow up his entire world for you. and you should know what family you're walking into. What blood is on their hands. Another pause. I'm sending the files now. Read them. Then decide if he's worth it. The line went dead. My phone buzzed with an incoming email. I stared at it for a full minute. Terror and denial warring in my chest. This was a lie. It had to be. Some elaborate trick by Vanessa or the Salvatores to drive a wedge between me and Dante. But my finger was already opening the attachment. The first document was a police report. My father's accident. Single car. Collision. Rainy night. Blood alcohol level. Suggesting he'd been drinking. Except I remembered that night. Remembered my mother crying, saying it didn't make sense, that Dad never drank and drove, that something was wrong. The second document was a bank statement. Large deposits to my father's account in the weeks before his death. Deposits from a shell corporation I now recognized as linked to Caruso Enterprises. The third was a letter, in my father's handwriting. Maria, if you're reading this, something has happened to me. I found something I wasn't supposed to find. Money disappearing from the Caruso accounts. Going to offshore accounts in Marco's name alone. He's stealing from his own family, his own organization. I made copies, hid them. If anything happens to me, you need to. The letter ended there, unfinished. I read it 3 times, my father's words blurring through tears. He'd known. He'd known he was in danger and he'd tried to warn my mother. And then he'd died, and Marco Caruso had made it look like drunk driving, and my entire life had been built on that lie. My phone rang. Dante. I stared at his name on the screen, my heart shattering. Elena, thank God. Listen to me carefully. Did you know? My voice was eerily calm. A pause. Know what? About my father. About what your father did. The silence stretched so long I thought the connection had dropped. How did you... He stopped, exhaled sharply. Where did you hear that? So it's true. Tears streamed down my face. Marco Caruso murdered my father, and you knew. Elena, I was 14 when it happened. I didn't know the details until years later. And by then what? I was screaming now. By then you'd decided it didn't matter? That it was just business? That my father's life was just another casualty in your family's empire? That's not Elena, please, let me explain. Explain what? How you looked me in the eye and said I was yours. How you talked about protecting me, when your family is the reason I grew up without a father? I was sobbing, breaking apart. Did you know who I was? When you met me at the gallery, when you defended me from Vanessa, did you know? No. His voice was raw. I swear to God, I didn't connect it. Your mother remarried. You took her new husband's name. I never... But when you found out where I lived, when you had me investigated, you must have known then. He didn't answer. Didn't need to. Oh my God. The betrayal was physical. A knife between my ribs. You knew, and you pursued me anyway. You let me fall for you, knowing what your father did to mine. Because I love you. The words exploded from him. Because the moment I realized who you were, I knew I should walk away, and I couldn't. Because you're the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I'm selfish enough to want you anyway, even knowing I don't deserve you. I closed my eyes. You should have told me. I know. You should have let me go. I tried. I can't. A knock on my apartment door, not the gentle knock of earlier, hard, authoritative, demanding. Dante, someone's here. Don't open that door. His voice went sharp with panic. Elena, listen to me. I'm 20 minutes away. Do not. The door exploded inward. Men in black tactical gear flooded my apartment. I screamed, dropping my phone, stumbling backward. Dante's guards were already down. I could see them in the hallway, unconscious, or worse. Elena Morrison? The man in front removed his mask. Older, hard-faced, with eyes that held no mercy. Antonio Salvatore sends his regards. I tried to run, made it 3 steps before someone grabbed me. A cloth pressed over my mouth and nose. The chemical smell was overwhelming, the world already tilting. I heard Dante's voice screaming my name from the dropped phone. Then nothing. Dante. The scream cut off mid-sound. Dante stared at his phone, listening to the chaos crashing, shouting, then terrible, absolute silence. Elena! He was already moving, his driver hitting the accelerator before he'd even finished barking the address. Get every man we have to her apartment. Now. Now. Luca was already on another phone, voice clipped and urgent. Teams are moving. ETA 6 minutes. 6 minutes. Anything could happen in 6 minutes. Dante's hands shook as he redialed. Straight to voicemail. Again. This was Antonio. Luca's face was grim. Had to be. He knew we were at the sit-down. Knew she'd be alone. I'm going to kill him. Dante's voice was empty. Absolute. I'm going to kill every single person who touched her. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. Mr. Caruso. Antonio Salvatore's voice was pleasant, conversational. I believe I have something of yours. If you've hurt her, she's perfectly safe. For now, sleeping peacefully in one of my guest rooms. A pause. We should talk. About your broken engagement. About respect. About consequences. Name your price. Antonio laughed. Oh, Dante. There is no price. There's only a choice. You end this obsession with Elena Morrison, you marry my daughter as arranged, and the girl lives. You refuse, and I send her back to you in pieces. You touch her, and I'll burn your entire family to ash. Big words from a man who's outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and currently racing toward an empty apartment. Antonio's voice hardened. You have until tomorrow night. The Salvatore estate. Come alone. Agree to my terms. And she goes free. Refuse, or bring your men, and she dies screaming. The line went dead. Dante's car screeched to a stop outside Elena's building. He was out before it fully stopped, racing up the stairs, past his unconscious guards, into her destroyed apartment. Empty. The phone he'd heard her drop was on the floor. Screen cracked. Signs of struggle everywhere. And on the mirror, written in lipstick Vanessa's shade, a message. Consequences. Dante stood in the wreckage of Elena's apartment, his carefully constructed control finally shattering, and let out a sound that was barely human. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. Father, I need every favor you've ever accumulated, every alliance you've ever built, and every soldier in our organization. Dante, the Salvatores have Elena, and I'm going to get her back if I have to massacre every single one of them to do it. I woke to silk sheets and the worst headache of my life. For a moment I couldn't remember where I was. Then it crashed over me, the men in tactical gear, the chemical-soaked cloth. Dante's voice screaming my name through the phone. I bolted upright, immediately regretting it as the room spun. Easy. A woman's voice, cultured and calm. The chloroform takes time to wear off. My vision cleared enough to see her stunning, impeccably dressed, sitting in an armchair by the window like she was attending a tea party. Vanessa, you kidnapped me. My voice came out hoarse. Technically, my father's men did. I simply suggested the venue. She smiled. Welcome to the Salvatore estate. I'd offer you a tour, but you're not exactly here as a guest. I looked around. The room was luxurious 4-poster bed, antique furniture, windows that showed manicured grounds stretching into darkness. Also locked, I noticed. The windows had bars hidden behind elegant curtains. Where's Dante? Probably tearing the city apart looking for you. Vanessa examined her nails. It's almost romantic. If it wasn't so pathetically futile. He'll find me. Oh, I'm counting on it. She stood, moved to the window. That's the point. Your bait, sweetheart. The worm on the hook. And Dante will come because he's too obsessed to do anything else. And then what? Then he'll agree to my father's terms. Marry me. End this embarrassing infatuation. And you. She turned, her smile cruel. You'll disappear. Permanently. Fear clawed at my throat, but I forced myself to meet her eyes. You really think he'll just agree? That he'll let you kill me? I think he'll do whatever it takes to keep you alive in the moment. Men like Dante are predictable that way, so controlled until you find their weakness. Then they crumble. She walked closer. And you, Elena Morrison, are his weakness. Why do you even want him? I demanded. You don't love him. This is all just power and arrangements to you. Love? Vanessa laughed. God, you really are naive. This isn't about love. It's about legacy. Control. The Salvatore Caruso alliance has kept this city stable for 15 years. Do you have any idea how much money we make together? How much influence we wield? So it's just business. Everything is business. She leaned against the bedpost. But I'll admit, there's satisfaction in winning. In taking back what's mine from some nobody who thought she could waltz into our world and change the rules. I never wanted any of this. Yet here you are. Vanessa moved to the door. My father wants to meet you before Dante arrives. I'd suggest being cooperative. Antonio doesn't have Dante's restraint when it comes to extracting information. She left, the lock clicking with finality. I waited exactly 30 seconds before getting up and testing every possible exit. The windows were indeed barred. The door was solid oak, locked from the outside. The bathroom had a small frosted window, also barred. I was well and truly trapped. 2 hours later, they came for me. Antonio Salvatore's study was everything I'd imagined: dark wood, expensive art, the smell of cigars and old money. He sat behind a massive desk, watching me enter with eyes that calculated my worth like I was a commodity. "Miss Morrison, please, sit." I remained standing. "Where's Dante?" "On his way, I imagine. Though he won't arrive until tomorrow evening at the earliest. I wanted time to talk with you first." He gestured again. "Please, I insist." Something in his tone made it clear this wasn't a request. I sat. "Do you know why you're here?" he asked conversationally. "Because your daughter can't handle competition." His laugh was genuine. "I like you. You have spine. But no, that's not why." He leaned forward. "You're here because Dante Caruso broke a sacred contract. An engagement that represents decades of peace between our families. And such breaks require consequences. I didn't ask him to break it. Irrelevant. You exist. That's enough." He pulled out a folder, slid it across the desk. "Do you know what this is?" I opened it with shaking hands. Financial documents, transfer records, all related to my father's accounts before he died. "Marco Caruso killed your father," Antonio said matter-of-factly. "Dante knew, and he pursued you anyway. How does that make you feel? How do you know about my father?" "I make it my business to know everything about people in my city, especially people who might become leverage against the Carusos." He steepled his fingers. "Your father was a good man. Honest. That got him killed. And now you're romantically involved with the son of his murderer. Ironic, isn't it? What do you want from me?" "I want you to understand the full picture before Dante arrives and fills your head with promises he can't keep." Antonio stood, moved to the window. "If he refuses my terms tomorrow, you die. If he agrees, you live, but only if you leave. Disappear. Change your name, your life, everything. Because if you stay, if you ever contact him again, I'll kill you myself. And if I refuse to leave, even if he agrees, then I kill you both." He said it simply. "Dante is valuable, but not irreplaceable. And I won't have my daughter humiliated, my family's power undermined, over some girl." I stood on shaking legs. "He won't agree. He'll fight. Then he'll lose. And you'll watch him die before I kill you too." Antonio's smile was paternal, grotesque. "I'm not a monster, Miss Morrison. I'm giving you a way out. Take it." They escorted me back to my prison. I collapsed on the bed, my father's ghost and Dante's betrayal and Antonio's threats swirling in my mind. Hours passed. Night fell. I couldn't sleep, couldn't think clearly, couldn't escape the trap closing around us. At 3 a.m., a sound at my window made me freeze. A pebble against glass. I rushed over, peered through the bars into the darkness. A figure stood in the shadows below. Then he stepped into the moonlight, and my heart stopped. Dante. He was supposed to wait until tomorrow. Supposed to come to the front door, negotiate, play by Antonio's rules. Instead, he was here. Now. Alone. He pressed something to the glass, his phone, with typed words, "Trust me." Before I could respond, the window exploded. Not from outside. From inside, a tiny explosive charge on the bars I hadn't noticed. Detonating with a muffled crack. The bars twisted, gave way. Dante was already climbing, impossibly fast, reaching through the broken window to pull me toward it. "We have 60 seconds before everyone. Alarm in this place goes off," he said, against my ear. "Do you trust me?" Somewhere distant, I heard shouts. Guards mobilizing. I looked at him. This man whose father had killed mine, who'd lied by omission, who'd brought chaos into my life. This man who'd just infiltrated enemy territory alone to get me back. Yes. He pulled me through the window. We fell together into the darkness, and somewhere in the house, alarms began to scream. We hit the ground hard, Dante twisting so he took the impact. He was up instantly, pulling me with him, one arm around my waist, the other hand holding a gun I hadn't seen him draw. "Run!" I ran. The grounds were massive, shadowy, cut through with hedge mazes and sculpture gardens that would have been beautiful if we weren't fleeing for our lives. Behind us, the house erupted with light, shouts, the unmistakable sound of men mobilizing. This way. Dante pulled me left, into a grove of trees. Stay low, stay quiet. You came alone. I was gasping, adrenaline making my voice shake. Antonio said. Antonio wanted me to walk through the front door like a lamb to slaughter. He didn't slow down. I don't play by his rules. We burst through the tree line into another section of manicured lawn. A wall loomed ahead, 12 feet of stone and iron, topped with what looked like security cameras. How did you even get in? Money and blackmail. He holstered his gun, gripped my waist. When I lift you, grab the top and pull yourself over. There's a ledge on the other side, 2-foot drop. I'll be right behind you. Dante. Gunfire shattered the night. Dante swore, shoved me against the wall as bullets tore through the space we'd just occupied. He returned fire without hesitation. 3 precise shots that sent our pursuers diving for cover. Now, Elena. Now. He lifted me like I weighed nothing. I grabbed the wall top, my arms screaming as I hauled myself up and over. The drop on the other side was further than 2 feet, more like 6, and I hit the ground in a graceless heap. Dante was over the wall before I'd fully stood, landing in a crouch beside me. Are you hurt? Are you hurt? No, but... He pulled me up and we were running again. A car waited in the shadows, sleek black engine already running. The driver's door opened, and Luca emerged, face grim. They're mobilizing everything. We have maybe 3 minutes. Get us out of here. Dante pushed me into the back seat, sliding in beside me as Luca hit the accelerator. We roared away from the Salvatore estate, tires screaming. Behind us, I could see vehicles pouring out of the gates, giving chase. They're following. My voice was too high, panic edging in. They won't catch us. Dante pulled out his phone, typed something rapidly. Seconds later, the pursuing car's paths were cut off by 2 massive SUVs that materialized from side streets, boxing them in. Your men? Everyone I trust. He was still watching his phone, coordinating movements I couldn't fully follow. We're not out of danger yet. Antonio will be calling in favors, alerting his people throughout the city. We need to disappear. Where are we going? Somewhere safe. Somewhere even my father doesn't know about. He finally looked at me, and what I saw in his eyes made my breath catch. Elena, about your father. Not now. I couldn't handle that conversation while running for our lives. Just, not now. He nodded, jaw tight, and returned to his phone. We drove for 40 minutes, switching cars twice, taking routes that seemed deliberately circuitous. Finally, we pulled into an underground parking garage in a part of the city I didn't recognize. Where are we? Property I bought under a shell corporation 5 years ago. No one knows about it. Dante helped me out of the car. Top floor? It's secure. The elevator required a keycard and a code. The penthouse it opened into was stunning, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Modern furniture, the kind of space that screamed money and taste. And completely empty of any personal touches. I've never brought anyone here, Dante said quietly, reading my thoughts. This was supposed to be, I don't know, an escape. Somewhere I could be something other than a Caruso. Luca appeared from a side room. Perimeter's secure. I've got men on the lobby, the roof, and both stairwells. No one's getting in. Thank you. Dante gripped his shoulder. Get some rest. We'll regroup in a few hours. When we were alone, the silence felt crushing. I stood by the windows, watching the city lights, trying to process everything. The kidnapping, the revelations about my father, Dante's impossible rescue, the fact that we were now fugitives from one of the most powerful crime families in the state. You should have let him kill me. The words came out flat, emotionless. Don't. Dante's voice was raw. Don't even think that. It would have been easier. Smarter. You wouldn't be at war. I'm already at war. He crossed the room in 3 strides, spinning me to face him. The moment Antonio took you, the moment he thought he could use you against me, there was no other outcome. This has been coming for years. Because of me. Because of power. Control. Old grudges and older debts. His hands framed my face. You're not the cause, Elena. You're just the catalyst. The excuse both sides have been looking for. Your father killed mine. Finally saying it out loud felt like stepping off a cliff. Marco Caruso murdered my father and made it look like an accident because Dad found evidence of his corruption. Dante's eyes closed. I know. When did you find out? About the connection between us? 2 days after the gallery, when I had you investigated. His voice was barely audible. Your mother's remarriage. Your name change. I didn't make the connection until I saw the full background report. Thomas Morrison, accountant, deceased 2009. And you didn't tell me. I was going to. He opened his eyes, and I saw genuine anguish there. That night at the restaurant, before my father showed up, I was planning to tell you everything. The engagement, your father, all of it. Give you the truth and let you decide. But you didn't, because I'm a coward. The admission cost him, because I knew that if you learned what my family did, you'd leave. And I wasn't strong enough to let you go. I should have pulled away, should have screamed, raged, demanded he take me home. Instead, I asked the question that had been burning in my chest since I'd read those documents. Did you have anything to do with it? My father's death? No. The answer was immediate, absolute. I was 14. I didn't even know it had happened until years later, when I was going through old files, trying to understand my father's business practices. He swallowed hard. I found the order, the payment to the man who sabotaged the car, all of it. And you did nothing. I was 23 and trying to survive in a world where questioning my father meant ending up in the same grave as his other enemies. His voice broke. I'm not defending it. I'm just explaining. I was a coward then too. But not now. I touched his face. This man who'd just risked everything to save me. You came for me alone. You started a war. Because loving you made me brave. Or stupid. Probably both. He leaned into my touch. I can't undo what my father did. Can't bring yours back. Can't erase any of it. All I can do is promise you this. I will spend the rest of my life making sure you're safe, protected, cherished. I will burn down my family's empire if that's what it takes. I will. I kissed him. Desperate, furious, grieving. I kissed him, and he kissed me back like we were drowning and this was air. His hands fisted in my hair. My fingers clutched his shirt. And for one perfect moment, the world narrowed to just this. When we finally broke apart, we were both shaking. I should hate you, I whispered. I should want nothing to do with you or your family. But I can't. Tears streamed down my face. I can't hate you. Can't leave. Can't stop loving you even though everything about this is wrong and complicated and... He kissed me again. Softer this time. Reverent. Then we'll figure it out, he said against my lips. Together. We'll find a way through this. His phone buzzed. He ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. Finally, cursing, he pulled it out, read the message, and went absolutely still. What? He showed me the screen. A photo. The Salvatore estate. On fire. The message below it read, You wanted war, son. You have it. Father. I stared at the image flames consuming the mansion where I'd been held prisoner. Smoke billowing into the night sky. Marco did this? My father just declared open war on the Salvatores. Dante's voice was hollow. And there's no going back now. The penthouse became our war room. Within an hour of Marco's message, Dante's phone hadn't stopped ringing. Luca appeared with laptops, files, maps of the city, marked with territories and safe houses. Other men arrived cold-eyed, dangerous, loyal. I sat in the corner, watching Dante transform. Gone was the man who'd kissed me with desperate tenderness. In his place stood someone harder, sharper, radiating lethal authority. He moved through information with surgical precision, making decisions that would determine who lived and died before the sun rose. The Salvatores are evacuating to their secondary locations, Luca reported, pointing to the map. Antonio survived the fire, Vanessa too. But 7 of their men are dead, another 12 injured. Collateral? Dante's voice was emotionless. 2 household staff, already dead when Marco's team arrived. I flinched. 2 people, cooks, maids, gardeners, people with families dead because of this war, because of me. Dante's eyes found mine across the room. Something flickered in them, regret, maybe, or acknowledgement of what this cost. But he didn't stop. Antonio will retaliate within hours. Pull all our people from exposed positions, double guards on family holdings, and find out which allied families are staying neutral. The briefing continued. I stopped listening. overwhelmed by the casual discussion of violence, the strategic planning of destruction. Around 4 a.m., when most of the men had dispersed to their assignments, Dante finally approached me. "You should rest." "I can't." I looked at him, this man I loved and barely knew. 2 people are dead. How many more before this ends? I don't know. At least he was honest. Could be dozens. Could be hundreds, if other families get involved. "And you're okay with that?" "No." He sat beside me, exhaustion lining his face. "But I'm resigned to it. This is what my world looks like, Elena. Power maintained through violence, peace bought with blood. I warned you. Warning and reality are different." I drew my knees to my chest. I keep thinking about those staff members. They didn't choose this. They were just there. Innocent casualties. His voice was bitter. "The ghosts that follow me everywhere." I looked at him. Really looked. Past the tailored clothes and authoritative commands to the man underneath, exhausted, conflicted, carrying more weight than anyone should. Does it ever get easier? Making these decisions? No. It gets harder, because every choice adds to the count. He stood, moved to the window. "My father's been doing this for 40 years. He doesn't even see the casualties anymore. Just numbers. Assets. Acceptable losses. But you do. I do." He turned back to me, which makes me either more human or more weak, depending on who you ask. Before I could respond, his phone rang. His expression darkened as he listened. "When?" A pause. "Survivors?" Another pause, longer. "Understood. Secure the location. I'll be there in 20. He hung up, jaw tight. "What happened?" "The Salvatores hit one of our warehouses. 8 of my men." He couldn't look at me. "All dead." The number hit like a physical blow. 8 people. 8 families who would wake up to the worst news possible. "You have to stop this." I stood, moved toward him. "Call a truce. Negotiate. Something. It's past that point." Antonio's son was in that fire my father set. Critical condition, 3rd-degree burns over 60% of his body. Dante's voice was hollow. Even if Antonio wanted peace, his family wouldn't accept it. Blood demands blood. Then what do? We survive, and we make sure we win. He pulled on his jacket, checked his gun. "I have to go. Luca and 3 men will stay here with you. Don't leave. Don't open the door for anyone but me." "Dante," he kissed me, hard, desperate, like he was memorizing the taste. "I love you," he said against my lips. "Remember that. Whatever happens, whatever you hear, remember I love you." Then he was gone. The call came 6 hours later. I'd tried to sleep, failed. Spent the morning pacing and watching news reports of gang violence escalating across the city. The media didn't know the half of it. When Luca's phone rang, I knew it was bad news by the way his face went white. "I understand. Yes, I'll tell her." He hung up, looked at me with something like pity. "What? What happened?" "There's been a development. Dante wants you brought to a secure location. Now." "What kind of development?" "Miss Elena, tell me." My voice cracked. "Is he hurt? Is he—" "He's alive." But Antonio Salvatore just made a public statement. He's calling for a sit-down. All families. Winner-take-all negotiation. That's good, right? Negotiation means trial by combat. Luca's voice was grim. Antonio challenged Dante directly. One-on-one fight, old rules. Winner gets everything, territories, assets, peace. Loser dies. The room tilted. "When?" "Tonight. Midnight. Neutral ground." He was already moving, gathering weapons, making calls. "Antonio's demanding you be there. As witness. Says if you don't show, the deal's off and he burns the city down looking for you. So I'm bait again. Your leverage. Insurance that Dante shows up." Luca handed me a bulletproof vest. "Put this on. We leave in 10 minutes. Can Dante win?" Luca hesitated. "Antonio is older, but he's been doing this his whole life. He's vicious, brutal, and he has nothing to lose. His son might die anyway from the burns. That's not an answer. The answer is I don't know. But I know Dante will die trying to protect you." His eyes met mine. "The question is whether you can live with that." They brought us to an abandoned warehouse on the waterfront. Neutral ground, apparently owned by neither family, serving as the arena for this barbaric ritual. Cars surrounded the building. Men in suits, carrying weapons, representing every major family in the city. This wasn't just about the Carusos and Salvatores anymore. This was the entire underworld, watching to see who would rule. Luca led me inside. The warehouse had been cleared, a circle marked on the concrete floor. Lights had been rigged, creating a makeshift arena, and in the center, facing each other like gladiators, stood Dante and Antonio Salvatore. Dante's shirt was already off, revealing the muscled torso I'd felt but never fully seen. Scars marked his skin, old wounds from a violent life. His eyes found mine across the space, and something passed between us. Love, regret, determination. Antonio was bigger, broader, his body marked with even more scars. He smiled when he saw me. "Miss Morrison, so glad you could join us. Dante fights better when he has something to lose." "This is insane," I said, my voice carrying in the sudden silence. "You're going to murder each other over pride?" "Not pride," Antonio corrected. "Territory, power, the future of this city." He turned to Dante. "Ready, boy?" Dante's eyes never left mine. "Elena, whatever happens, don't..." I was, crying now, not caring who saw. "Don't say goodbye. Then I'll say this. You made me human again. Thank you." A bell rang. They came together with brutal speed. I'd never watched two men try to kill each other before. The reality was nothing like movies. No dramatic music, no slow-motion sequences, no honor. Just violence, raw, ugly, desperate. Antonio struck first, a jab that would have shattered Dante's jaw if it had connected. Dante ducked, countered with a combination to Antonio's ribs that I heard crack from 20 feet away. They circled, breathing hard already. "You're soft," Antonio taunted. "Too much time playing businessman, not enough remembering where you came from." Dante didn't respond. He was watching, calculating, waiting for an opening. Antonio lunged. Faster than a man his age should move, he caught Dante's guard down, landed a punch that snapped Dante's head back. Blood sprayed from his split lip. I screamed. Luca's hand clamped on my shoulder, holding me back. "Don't distract him." Dante shook off the hit, returned with a vicious kick that caught Antonio's knee. The older man stumbled, and Dante pressed the advantage 3 rapid punches, targeting the same ribs he'd already damaged. Antonio gasped, backed away. Better, but not good enough. He pulled a knife. The crowd erupted in shouts. This was supposed to be a fair fight, no weapons, but Antonio just smiled at the protests. "What? There are no rules in our world. You all know that." Dante's eyes went cold, lethal. He didn't look at me, didn't acknowledge the blade, just refocused on Antonio with predatory intensity. "That's how you want to play this? This is how it's always been played, boy. Survival, by any means necessary." Antonio struck. The blade flashed in the harsh lights, aimed at Dante's throat. Dante twisted, caught Antonio's wrist, and they grappled strength against strength, both fighting for control of the knife. I couldn't breathe, couldn't look away, couldn't do anything but watch this man I loved fight for his life. They crashed to the ground, the knife skittering away. Dante ended up on top, raining down punches, his control finally breaking. Each hit landed with brutal precision, face, ribs, face again. Antonio's men started forward, but Marco's voice cut through the chaos. "Stand down. Old rules, no interference." I hadn't even seen Marco arrive. He stood at the edge of the circle, watching his son beat Antonio Salvatore with an expression of cold satisfaction. "Dante!" I found my voice. "Stop! You're going to kill him!" Dante froze, fist raised. Blood Antonio's and his own dripped from his knuckles. For a moment, I thought he wouldn't listen, that the violence had consumed him entirely. Then he stood, backing away. Antonio didn't get up. He lay gasping, blood pooling beneath him from wounds I couldn't fully see. "It's over," Dante said, his voice carrying to every corner of the warehouse. "The Salvatore Caruso alliance is dissolved. Your family keeps your current territories, but you stay out of our business. Forever. And the girl," Antonio managed through broken teeth, "is mine. Touch her. Threaten her. Even think about her, and I'll finish what I started tonight." "Dante." Vanessa's voice cut through the tension. She emerged from the crowd, face pale, eyes locked on her father's broken form. "You've made your point. Just let me get him to a hospital." Dante looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "Go. This war is done." Vanessa's men rushed forward, carefully lifting Antonio. As they carried him past me, Antonio's eyes found mine. "You win," he whispered. "Congratulations. You get to love a monster." Then they were gone, taking their wounded patriarch and their humiliation with them. The warehouse erupted in conversation, families discussing what this meant, whose power had risen or fallen, what came next. I didn't care about any of it. I pushed through the crowd, Luca not stopping me, this time, until I reached Dante. He stood in the center of the circle, chest heaving, covered in blood and sweat and victory. "You're hurt," I said stupidly. "I'm alive." His eyes searched my face. "Are you okay?" I laughed, a broken, slightly hysterical sound. "You almost died and you're asking if I'm okay?" "Always." He swayed slightly, and I grabbed his arm, supporting more weight than I should have been able to. "We need to get you to a doctor. We need to get you somewhere safe." But he let me guide him toward the exit, toward Luca's waiting car. Marco intercepted us at the door. "Impressive," he said to Dante. "Brutal, but effective. The Salvatore family won't recover from this humiliation for years. I don't care about humiliation. I care about keeping Elena safe." Marco's eyes flicked to me, assessing, cold. "The girl who started all this. The woman I'm going to marry," Dante corrected, his voice absolutely final. I froze. We hadn't discussed marriage. Hadn't discussed anything beyond surviving the next hour. Marco's expression didn't change. "Is that wise? Given everything?" "I don't care if it's wise. It's what's happening." Dante straightened, ignoring his obvious pain. "And you're going to accept it. Because if you go near her, if you so much as suggest she's in danger from our family, I'll do to you what I just did to Antonio." Father and son stared at each other. A lifetime of conflict, control, and complicated loyalty passed between them. Finally, Marco smiled. "You've grown into your power. Good. The family needs strength." He looked at me again. "Welcome to the Caruso family, Miss Morrison. I hope you survive it." He walked away. Dante sagged against me. "Hospital. Now." The private doctor Luca found stitched up Dante's wounds in a safe house across town. 3 broken ribs, countless bruises, a mild concussion, and a knife wound he'd somehow hidden during the fight. I sat beside him while the doctor worked, holding his hand, trying not to fall apart. "Did you mean it?" I asked when we were finally alone. "About marrying me?" "I've never meant anything more." He winced as he shifted positions, though I should probably propose properly. "When I'm not bleeding and barely conscious. This seems on brand for us, actually." He laughed, then groaned. "Don't make me laugh. It hurts. Everything about this hurts." I traced his knuckles gently. "Your father killed mine. Your world almost killed us both. This should be impossible. But I love you anyway." The admission felt like stepping off a cliff again, but lighter this time. Freeing. "I love you, and I don't know how to stop, and I don't think I want to." Dante pulled me down carefully, kissing me with split lips and desperate tenderness. "Then marry me," he whispered. "Make this official. Make it real. Your family will never accept me. My family will learn to, or they'll deal with the consequences." His eyes held mine. "I'm done choosing their approval over my own life, over you." I thought about my father, about the lies and violence and blood that connected us, about every reason this was wrong. Then I thought about Dante climbing through a window to save me, fighting for me, declaring war for me. "Yes," I said, "but not because you're a Caruso. Because you're you." His smile was beautiful, broken, and completely genuine. That's all I've ever wanted to be. 3 months later, I stood in the penthouse that had become our home, watching the sunrise paint the city in shades of gold. The war with the Salvatores had ended that night in the warehouse. Antonio had survived, barely, and retreated to Miami to recover, which everyone understood meant he'd been forced into early retirement by his own family. Vanessa had married someone from a neutral family, a political arrangement that kept the Salvatore name relevant without threatening Caruso interests. The city had settled into new territory lines, new alliances, new power structures, and, somehow, impossibly, I'd become part of that structure. Arms circled my waist from behind, Dante's chin resting on my shoulder. "You're up early." Couldn't sleep. I leaned back into him, feeling the scars that now marked his ribs, constant reminders of what he'd risked. Too much thinking. About everything. My father, your father. This life I'm choosing. 3 months of therapy, both for me and for us as a couple, had helped me process the truth about my father's death. I'd confronted Marco exactly once, in his office, and told him I knew what he'd done. He'd listened in silence, then said simply, "I made a choice I regret. I can't undo it. I can only ensure it never happens again." It wasn't an apology, wasn't justice, but it was acknowledgement, and sometimes that had to be enough. "Having second thoughts?" Dante asked carefully. "No, just making sure I'm choosing this for the right reasons." I turned in his arms. "I'm not naive anymore. I know what your world is. What being a Caruso means. What does it mean? It means violence is always an option. It means power comes with blood. It means I'll spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder, wondering if someone's planning revenge or leveraging our relationship for their own gain." "That's accurate." His voice was quiet. "And if that's too much, it also means," I interrupted, "that I'm with someone who'll burn down the world to keep me safe, who fights with broken ribs and never gives up, who's trying to be better than his father, to break cycles of violence even when it's nearly impossible." I touched his face, this beautiful, complicated man I'd chosen against all logic. "I'm choosing you, Dante. Not the Caruso empire, not the power or money or influence, you." His kiss was soft, reverent, full of promises we were both still learning to keep. "I got you something," he said, pulling back. "It's not our wedding day yet. You're not supposed to give me gifts. This isn't a wedding gift." He retrieved a box from the desk, handed it to me. Its closure. Inside was a file. Legal documents, bank statements, property deeds, all in my mother's name. "What is this?" "Everything Marco took from your family when your father died. The insurance payout he manipulated, the pension he redirected, the house he forced into foreclosure." Dante's voice was steady but strained. "I can't bring your father back, can't erase what happened, but I can return what was stolen." Tears burned my eyes. "This is Dante. This is millions of dollars. It was always yours. I'm just correcting an old wrong." I stared at the documents, my father's ghost settling just slightly. It wasn't justice, but it was restitution, recognition. "Your father approved this? My father doesn't know. And by the time he finds out, it'll be too late to reverse." A slight smile. "I'm learning to make decisions without asking permission. Rebellious. I like it. Marry me today." I blinked. "What?" "Today. This morning. I have a judge who owes me favors, a license that's already filed, and Luca's waiting downstairs with the car." His eyes held mine. "I know we planned the ceremony for next month, the big wedding to cement family alliances and make political statements, but I don't want to wait. I want to marry you now, just us, before the world gets its claws in again." My heart hammered. That's insane. That's us. He was right. Everything about our relationship had been chaos and impulse, and decisions made in crisis. Why should our wedding be any different? "Luca's really downstairs?" "With Sophia. She wants to be your witness. Says every bride needs someone in her corner." Sophia Marchetti, the woman who'd sent me the files about my father. We'd met in person a month ago, and she'd explained that she'd been my father's colleague, had helped him gather evidence against Marco, and had spent 16 years waiting for the right moment to expose the truth. We'd formed a strange friendship, built on shared grief and determination to honor my father's memory. "You planned this." I was half laughing, half crying. "You actually planned an ambush wedding. Is that a yes?" I looked around the penthouse, thought about the life waiting outside, complicated, dangerous, but ours. Thought about my father, who I'd never stop missing, but who I could finally grieve properly. Thought about Dante, who'd fought for me literally and figuratively, who was learning to be good despite everything that had taught him otherwise. On one condition. Anything. We visit my father's grave. After. I want to tell him about this. About you. About choosing to move forward. Dante's expression softened. "We'll go together." "Then yes. Let's get married today." The judge married us in a small chapel Dante owned, because of course he owned a chapel with Luca and Sophia as witnesses, and Dante's trusted men providing security outside. I wore a simple white dress. Dante wore the suit he'd worn the night we met. The ceremony was brief, intimate, perfect. When the judge pronounced us married, Dante kissed me like we had all the time in the world, like the violence and chaos waiting outside didn't exist. like we were just two people who'd found each other against impossible odds. "I love you, Elena Caruso," he whispered against my lips. "I love you too. Even though you're completely insane. Especially because I'm completely insane." We visited my father's grave that evening, as promised. I knelt in the grass, Dante standing silently behind me, and talked to a man who couldn't hear but who I'd never stop missing. "Dad, I met someone. His name is Dante, and he's complicated. His family hurt ours, hurt you, and I can't pretend that doesn't matter, that it's not something I'll carry forever." The wind rustled through nearby trees. Dante's hand rested on my shoulder, steady, supportive. "But he's also good, trying to be better, and he makes me feel brave enough to live fully, to stop hiding from everything I lost when you died." Tears streamed down my face. "I hope you'd understand. I hope you'd approve. I hope wherever you are, you know I haven't forgotten you." I stood, leaning into Dante's embrace. "He'd be proud of you," Dante said quietly, "of the woman you've become, of the strength it takes to love someone connected to his death." "How do you know?" "Because I'm proud of you. Every day." We stood there until the sun set, honoring a man who died for truth, beginning a life built on honesty, despite the lies that had brought us together. Epilogue. 6 months later, I woke to the sound of rain against windows, and Dante's steady breathing beside me. Our life had settled into something almost normal, if you ignored the armed security, the weekly meetings with family associates, the careful balancing act of power and peace that defined the Caruso empire. I'd returned to work, consulting for nonprofits on financial transparency. Ironic, given my husband's oft-tonally world. But Dante supported it. Said having someone who believed in legitimate business kept him honest. Marco and I had reached a careful truce. He'd never apologize, I'd accepted that. But he'd stopped fighting our marriage, started treating me with grudging respect. Baby steps. I felt Dante wake, his arm tightening around my waist. "Morning," he murmured. "Morning." I turned to face him. "I have news. Good or bad. That depends on how you feel about chaos." He laughed. "I married you. I'm extremely comfortable with chaos." I took his hand, placed it on my still flat stomach. "You're going to be a father." For a moment he just stared. Then his eyes filled with something I'd never seen there before. Pure, uncomplicated joy. "Really? Really? Is this okay? We never discussed." He kissed me. Deep, thorough, full of wonder. "It's perfect. You're perfect." His hand stayed on my stomach, protective, reverent. "I'm going to be better. For both of you. I swear. I know." And I did. Because Dante Caruso had spent 6 months proving he could change, could choose love over violence, could build instead of destroy. He wasn't perfect. Neither was I. Our life would never be simple or safe or easy. But it was ours. And as rain continued to fall and Dante held me like I was his entire world, I realized that sometimes love wasn't about perfection. It was about choosing each other, again and again, despite every reason not to. It was about building light in darkness. It was about becoming the people we needed to be, together. And that was enough. That was everything.